Hi guys, and welcome to my new Mafia Locations video. On this episode, I went down to see the mansion of the infamous mobster Anthony Gaspipe Casso. So he lived in this kind of lavish mansion down in the Mill Basin section of Brooklyn. And Mill Basin itself is a very interesting neighborhood. It's a basin, I guess, or this kind of circular land that sort of juts out into Jamaica Bay, and it's sort of near JFK a little bit, or the planes fly low, sort of nearby. No, I don't really know what the neighborhood was like back in the day, but I'm assuming it was these nice kind of middle-class-ish homes, ranch houses, very peaceful, idyllic neighborhood. Now, as you drive around the neighborhood, there's a lot of kind of big mansions. Gaspipe originally lived more in South Brooklyn in like an attached single-family home, and then once he rose up in the family, he got sort of more money and stuff. His lifestyle changed, and fancy clothes and fancy dinners and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that he did, he purchased this. Maybe there was a home already there. I'm not exactly sure, but he purchased this plot of land. I'm sure it also had something to do with him being an avid boater, because there's a big marina there in Mill Basin, and a lot of the houses abut the water itself, or have little docks or whatever. So anyway, he built this garish mansion, fortress-like mansion, worthy of a mob boss, honestly. And he spent about $1.2 million on it. And this was around in the year 1990, he did this. He paid, there was a contractor, construction guy, architect named Anthony Fava, and he had him and other firms that were, friendly with Casso give him good deals and help in the construction of the home. What I think is kind of funny about it is, like I said, it looks very much like a fortress, and there's a kind of lack of windows in this sort of main section of the house, which kind of makes me feel like he did that so, the FBI couldn't really look in. And where the house is, too, it's kind of the bottom of the neighborhood, so I'm sure he used that to his advantage to look out for, strange cars and things like that that may have been tailing him. Once the house was completed in 1991, the Anthony Fava guy began to press Casso to be paid. Casso kind of was blowing him off and stuff like that. And soon afterwards, Anthony Fava turned up dead, and he was found nude, tied up, and brutally tortured, actually, dead, obviously. Although no one was ever sort of caught or charged, it was later came out that Casso himself had ordered the murder. And there's a few different theories, but one is that he felt that he was, Anthony Fava was a rat, and supposedly that's why he was found nude, was because before he was murdered, he was stripped down to check for wires. But also, there's another sort of theory that Casso became nervous during the process of making the home, that Fava knew too much about his, sort of financial details. Maybe this could have caused headaches for Casso later, if in terms of a kind of an IRS investigation. Now, the elements of Fava being tortured, actually, Casso became upset when he heard about this, and he kind of came down on the hitman who did it, saying that he had only asked for him to be murdered and had not asked for him to be tortured, and that had gone too far, if you will. I don't know. Anyway, so then Casso didn't really have long to enjoy the house, because there was a lot of these indictments unsealed, and Casso and Vicamusa went on a run, and they ran away, and they hid out in places like Scranton, Pennsylvania for a while, until Casso was eventually arrested, actually at a house deep in New Jersey that he had purchased for his mistress, a woman named Rosemary Bellotti. Once he was taken into custody, it was a sort of, the beginning of the downfall of him. The house was eventually sold in 1995. Now, I don't know if the house was sold because it was seized by the government, or just because Casso's family, needed money, maybe, you know what I mean? And so they sold the house. And so then this is actually where the house kind of produces another interesting story. The house was sold to these guys. They were called the Toronto Brothers, and they were, or at least one of them was a very successful gynecologist, actually, from Brooklyn. and he had this relationship with a local politician, a New York politician, a guy called Carl Kruger, who also came from Brooklyn. And again, this Carl Kruger guy, he laid out a lot of money to even add more garish improvements to the house. And what ended up happening was, turns out that Carl Kruger himself was also a corrupt kind of politician and was doing these kickbacks and different rackets, and he was arrested and put in prison, as well as one of these Toronto brothers. And one of the Toronto brothers, they speculated that Kruger and Toronto were actually gay lovers, and that the house had been purchased to take care of Toronto, his brother, and Toronto's a mother, older mother. Honestly, I don't even want to go too much deeper into this because this deserves its own video. It is a very bizarre story, but just, you know, enough to be said that the house is still there and is still well maintained, I suppose, and still, you know, in that same style. And I'm not sure who owns it, but probably it probably is still owned by the Torontos. And or at least the family or something like that. So yeah, so anyway, so that's the story of Gaspipes' mob mansion, or mansion fit for a mob boss, if you will, in Mill Basin, Brooklyn. So that's this episode of Mafia Locations. I think it's a pretty interesting story. And so yeah, so like I said, so that's the story of Gaspipe Casso's mansion. Thanks.